Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Game Room. We are all gamers here, right? Well, as gamers, I'm sure we've had our fair share of sleepless nights, sneaking into our older brother's bedroom, stealing his video game console while he's asleep in order to play our favorite video game, only to have to sneak back into his room as the sun comes up in order to return his console before he wakes up, right? Oh, wait, was that just me? Interesting. Well, regardless of the links you went to in order to play your favorite video game, we all have the memories of that one game that holds a special place in our heart. That one game that brings a smile to your face every time you think about it. That one game to rule them all. That one precious. For me, that game was the Socom US Navy SEALs series for the PlayStation. Socom US Navy SEALs was released in August of 2002 as a PlayStation 2 exclusive by the third-party developer Zipper Interactive. This game was meant to be a tactical, team-based third-person shooter for the PlayStation 2 and later editions on the PlayStation 3. At the time that Socom US Navy SEALs, the first game in the franchise, came out, it was revolutionary in design. First off, back in 2002, there were very few realistic warfare shooters on the market whatsoever. Keep in mind, this was still 2 years before Halo 2 was released, propelling Xbox to the forefront of the still ever-going console wars. PlayStation's the best. Socom was revolutionary in 3 main areas. The first area was the design of the game. The game placed you in the role of U.S. Navy SEAL Special Operations Command Team Leader, callsign Kahuna. As team leader, your role was to command your 4-man team and lead them into battle and complete given missions. These missions could be anything from a terrorist assassination, hostage extraction, or intel recovery. And when I say you command your 4-man team, I mean you command your 4-man team. One of the unique features of the game is to issue orders to your unit. The reason this feature is so important is because without the proper execution of your mission plan, you would risk the lives of yourself, your team, and any civilian hostage that was unfortunate enough to get caught in the crossfire. You could order your team to breach a doorway, toss in a flash grenade, storm the room, and issue the all clear. The concept made you feel that your role was actually important, and that you weren't just playing another shooting game, much like I tend to feel nowadays. The real reason that issuing these commands was so revolutionary is because how you issued the commands. There were 2 ways to order your team. First, via a drop-down menu. When you start to give orders, the game will pause and give you a list of options as to what you want them to do. Then, the game would unpause and they would execute those commands. The second way that you issue the commands is by simply telling them what to do. No, really, you actually used your voice and told them what to do. This is one of the first games that ever allowed the player to use voice commands via a headset to the AI unit within the game, and they actually did what you commanded. And the headset actually worked really well. For the life of me, I don't know why more games do not use this feature today. It made this game very, very immersive. The second way that Socom was so revolutionary is the fact that it's also one of the first games that you could play online against other opponents for free using the PlayStation Network adapter. This game quickly became a staple game for any hardcore competitive shooter fan as they compete against each other in online team battles. Of course, there are tons of online multiplayer games today, so what made this game so special? Well, that brings me to my last point, and that is the fact that there was no such thing as respawns. For those of you who remember the days before Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, when you were killed, your round was over, and you just had to wait for the next round to begin. The reason this was such a good mechanic is because the game rewarded you for playing as a team, for actually using military tactics. If the round starts and you race to the center of the map to get to your favorite spot and a sniper pops you 10 seconds into a 6-minute match, well, you might as well go grab a snack because you're going to be there for a while. It was the teamwork that made voice communication so important in this game. Because of the strong mechanics and the support of the gaming community, Socom was very successful in its early years, and as a result produced a total of 10 standalone Socom titles, 4 on the PS2, 4 on the PlayStation Portable, and 2 on the PS3. The Socom series is my personal favorite video game series, and I dare to say will probably remain my favorite video game series for all time. I remember when I was 12 years old and my 17-year-old brother brought home Socom US Navy SEALs and I got to see him play it for the first time. I remember what it was like to beg him to let me play, but having to resort to waiting until 3 a.m. when he fell asleep so I could sneak in his room, take the PlayStation 2 upstairs to my room where my little brother was waiting in the bed, foaming at the mouth, ready to witness this masterpiece of a game. Unfortunately, after my brother turned 18, he moved out of the house and took his PlayStation 2 with him, causing me to be separated from my first love that was Socom. It would be 6 more years before I heard the announcement that Socom US Navy SEALs Confrontation, the 5th game in the series, was coming out and would be available on the new PlayStation 3. I had just moved out of the house myself, and 2 days before the release of Socom Confrontation, I went out and bought a PS3 and waited in anticipation. Then, on that fateful day, on October 14th, 2008, I held in my hand a brand new, unopened copy of Socom Confrontation. I remember tearing away the cellophane and loading the disc into my PS3. I remember watching the title screen come up and listening to the music start for the first time. And then I remember sitting at that title screen for the next 48 hours because the servers were so small, they crashed at launch and were not fully stable until a solid month later. Nevertheless, it was Socom Confrontation, and this quickly became my favorite individual game of all time. I played Socom for over 28 days within the game, and that time only increased when you were actually in a match, not when you were in a lobby or in a menu. For those of you who watched my last video, I stated how I'm currently hooked on Rocket League and how I've played over 200 hours, which is the same amount as watching all of The Walking Dead 5 times. Yeah, that was 8.2 days. I spent over 28 days, almost a month of my life playing Socom. On that same scale, I would have to watch The Walking Dead 17 times to equal the same amount of time. So what happened? Why did I quit playing Socom? That I can answer in 2 words. Socom 4. After the rights to the Socom franchise had changed hands a few times, finally, the 4th main installment of Socom was back in the rightful hands of Zipper Interactive. However, due to the changing atmosphere of PlayStation and Sony at the time, Sony put tons of pressure for Zipper to come up with a new, innovative version of Socom. And the result was abysmal. To this day, I refer to this game as Socom 4 Modern Warfare Edition. Everything that made Socom unique was gone. The team-based tactical missions were replaced by generic linear story campaign. The atmosphere and gameplay seemed canned and unintuitive at best. And lastly, on the multiplayer side, the main competitive mode now featured respawns. Socom 4 did not go without major criticism from the community. Some of us tried to make the best of it, but after a while, we all just moved on. 2 years after Socom 4 was released, we received the announcement from PlayStation that the multiplayer servers for all Socom games were going to be taken down, and a few months later, they were gone. And with it, a piece of my childhood was gone. I mean, this was a game where I had met many of my friends. This was a game where I stole my older brother's PlayStation Network ID and went by the name Raz Reaper for the first time. This was the game that inspired me ultimately to join the military. And it was gone. As the new year of 2016 rolled in, I began to reflect on my life. Not only what has shaped and changed me in the real world, but also what has shaped and changed me within the gaming world. You see, I don't play competitive shooters very much anymore. In fact, I mainly play solo storyline games. Excluding Rocket League, of course. But just recently, I decided to do a little research as to what caused the series to ultimately die and what hope is there that the series would ever return. When I was doing my research, I found an interesting story where an ex-Zipper Interactive employee who chose to remain anonymous gave a little insight as to what went wrong with Socom 4. The source's recording is saying the following. If you think Sony is going to listen to the Socom community who has already given Sony quite a bit of money, you are mistaken. Sony has moved on. They no longer wish to compete with Call of Duty since Call of Duty already helped sell PS3 units. Look at hockey. 989 Sports used to make hockey games, but they stopped. Why? They could not touch the competition, so they no longer wished to try. After reading that quote, I decided to do some research on my own and compare the Socom series directly to the Call of Duty series. I took 4 major titles from Socom and Call of Duty from the years 2002 and 2012 and created the following timeline. In 2002, Socom U.S. Navy SEALs hit the shelves for the first time and sold 3.7 million copies of the game. In 2003, Socom 2 U.S. Navy SEALs came out, still considered to be the best Socom game in the series as of today, and it sold only 3 million copies. In 2008, after a few years of developing PSP titles, Socom U.S. Navy SEALs Confrontation came out, and Confrontation only sold a mere 1.3 million copies. And then in 2011, the abomination that is Socom 4 U.S. Navy SEALs came out and sold a measly 900,000 units. Every time a new Socom game would come out, it would take more time, cost more money, but due to the competition, would get destroyed on the amount of units sold. Let's compare this to Call of Duty. In 2007, Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out and sold 18 million units across all of its platforms, and PlayStation alone sold 6.6 million units. That is over double any of the Socom games. Then 2010 rolled around, and this is the same time where Sony was pressuring Zipper to make a game that could compete with Call of Duty, and Treyarch released Call of Duty Black Ops, which sold an astonishing 30.6 million copies, 12.6 of which were sold on the PlayStation alone. The following year, in 2011, the same year that Socom 4 came out, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was released, again breaking its record with 30.7 million copies and 13.3 million just on the PlayStation. And then lastly, in 2012, Treyarch released Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which sealed the fate for Socom ever coming back with another 29.1 million copies with 13.8 million sold on PlayStation alone. Just a few weeks ago, in December of 2015, Shuhei Yoshida, the president of Sony Computer Entertainment Worldwide Studios, explained why Socom PS4 will not be happening anytime in the near future. The following is from an article by GamingBolt.com, and Yoshida had this to say about Socom fans. I appreciate the passion and their dedication every time there's a chance to voice their opinion on things they want to see come back. The latest that I understand had over 10,000 people who had signed a petition. So there's high expectation when there's a rumor that we are bringing back some of the PS2 games, and they're like, oh, Socom was one of the PS2 titles they wanted to see, but it wasn't there. That made people really angry, and I have been bombarded with angry messages. Some people say that I don't qualify for my job and that I should leave the industry or something like that. So I appreciate the passion, but it's not easy to bring back. In an online game, you move on. So much quality and production values, everything is way, way higher. People have great memories of playing these games many years ago, but people's experience have moved on as well. So even if they say they had a great time and they want to experience it again, they may not know how much higher their own expectations have become. Yoshida ended the interview with this statement: "We have to gauge the interest in what they are saying and what they really want to see or play. We have to balance that with what we can do, with the number of people who will enjoy our game. And we just don't have an answer for that. We are extremely proud of what our teams have accomplished during those days, but we have to balance everything." You see, fellow gamers, the undeniable fact is that approximately 1.2 billion people play video games. 700 million of those play online games, and 100 million of those play Call of Duty. Unfortunately, having 10,000 people sign a petition to support Socom is not even a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of things. Hashtag we are the 0.1%. Hashtag dreams crushed. And with that last statement, thus ends the chapter of my favorite gaming series of all times, Socom. As we enter into the new year, what game do you consider to be the best game of all time? Let me know in the descriptions below. Also, what games are you looking forward to playing in the upcoming year of 2016? Well, thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you're having a great start to 2016. And remember, if you liked the video, please show your support by clicking the subscribe button and giving this video a thumbs up. Also, if you want to catch our live stream, you can see it at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday and Thursday right here on this channel. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, see ya.
I think it's 1 a.m.
Dude, it's 1 o'clock and I got to be at work in 4 hours.
Are you freaking?
Come
No,
on,
no, forget. No, I'm
Let's
done.
just live that much.
Dude, I'm done.
One more.
Forget it.
Come on. Yeah. Seth?